Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Debbie with Question Queens, and I'm here with part 2 of the Dopey podcast interview with Tom Macdonald. The first one, we left off after he told his story about wrestling and his first CD he ever got with Tupac, and then the first time he ever listened to Eminem. But he kind of delved into the pro wrestling, but still continued to just write his songs. And then eventually he bought himself a microphone and some recording software and did one show, which is with his now girlfriend. But he hasn't told that story, but that's where we left off. It's a quick recap of the first part. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to the video. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that before we start, and let's get going. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit.
Braggadociousness, like in rap music and wrestling, exists. I don't know if you know this guy, Peter Rosenberg. I just interviewed him. He's like the Hot 97 DJ in Manhattan. Yep. He's also a WWE commentator. I know a lot of people who are into hip hop and wrestling similarly. What are you doing, Nora? Close the door. What are you doing, baby?
Gotta love children, right?
Nora, go downstairs. My daughter's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like, I don't even know what she asked me. What did she ask me? She wanted to get chocolate with Lucy, I think. This is the most important interview in my whole career, and she wants to have chocolate with Lucy. We're gonna do some pro wrestling downstairs when this thing is over. But I think
those are the most
a great interesting crossover.
Those are the most important interruptions that you'll ever get in life. You know, they really are.
Between wrestling and hip hop, expression, performance wise, obviously hip hop is poetry, hip hop is music, hip hop is a different art form. I was a kid, I loved wrestling as a kid, and I loved hip hop as a kid. And I liked the crews in similar ways. Like, I liked the hip hop crews, and I liked the wrestling crews, and I also liked superheroes. And I think all those things are kind of connected.
They are.
But I guess
dude.
this is a show about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit, though. Yeah. When did using come in? Hip hop, wrestling, or using?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I don't know if it was sort of directly related to like anything. I mean, there's a lot of partying and drugs and alcohol and bullshit in both the wrestling and the hip hop culture. Sure. So I guess like I started drinking and, you know, smoking weed and stuff like that when I was in the wrestling business. Like, I saw a lot of drugs and crazy shit, like in wrestling locker rooms and on the road and at wrestling after parties and stuff. Like, you hear stories about, you know, rock stars and their parties and shit.
I wouldn't have thought
that's fucking nothing compared to the way that pro wrestlers party. Wow. It's dismal in comparison. Like, it's fucking nuts.
I got to interview Jake the Snake Roberts once, and
he knows.
Holy shit, he fucking brings the fucking dopey. When's the first time you got high?
I think the first time I got high was probably just smoking weed with one of the boys, like after a show or something like that. I'm just trying to there's got to be the first time I got high. Actually, you know what? I think the first time I got high was probably like grade 9 or grade 10. I think that like we all just used to hang out in like a homie's basement, and we just used to like whatever, smoke weed and just chill out down there and just do kid shit. And
Ninth grade.
One of the guys he's actually passed away now from an overdose. He owned a weed store in Canada, and I worked at the weed store. and he was invested in the wrestling promotion or something. So I used to work at the weed store, and like that's where I got the lowdown on like all of the dope shit, like the salvia and the kratom and like all the weird like legal substances, the spice and all that shit. Like that was all coming through our store, and like so that's where I kind of got the DL on like all that shit. So smoking weed with like my friends just as a recreational fun thing became like a fucking way of life, working at like the weed store where like we were always fucking high. We were smoking weed before work. We were smoking weed fucking on
During
lunch
work.
breaks, on coffee breaks, like yeah, all the fucking the whole thing, you know. So you know, I don't ever remember there being, I remember the first time I got fucking drunk for sure.
What was that?
But I was just like at a party when I was like 16 and, you know, maybe a little bit younger, 15 or 16. And we were just like one of the first fucking house parties that like any of us had went to. And I got a fake ID from a friend of mine. It was actually his brother's ID, and his brother was like a bartender in the party district. So I got one of his old IDs that was expired. But nobody ever questioned me about it. We didn't look anything fucking like each other at all. But it worked. So I went into the liquor store and I bought a 24 pack of Smirnoff Ice in cans.
Okay.
And took that to a party, and fuck me, dude. I think I probably drank 18 of those fucking things. I almost died. I got like alcohol poisoning. That party ended up going from that house to like a hotel, and we were just drinking in this hotel, like just fucking stupid kids. Sure. And I remember that like it got to a point where like, you know, I was passing out and I was walking and I'd blink and I had moved 100 feet and blink again and I moved 100 feet. I was throwing up blood, like I had like alcohol poisoning.
Oh my gosh.
I probably should have died that night, but I woke up the next day and I was like, well, that was fucking awesome.
Right. Perfect reaction,
like,
right?
Yeah, I was like, I'm definitely doing that again. And then just that was my thing was alcohol. I just really got into drinking, and there was other fuck ups along the way with some.
I'm gonna tell you all something. I'm 52. I did not have my first beer until I was over 40. But I don't remember if I was 40 or 41. But I did not have my first beer until then. Bubble girl. Yep. Well, my dad being an alcoholic, I was always scared to drink because I knew what it did to him, and I was just scared to death. And plus I was scared of my mom because I knew if I ever did, she'd know. And I would be in trouble. However, I did drink. I took a shot once at a party. I think I was probably like 17 years old, and scared me to death. And I swore I would never, ever do it again. So I can't even imagine. And then the next day saying that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Throwing up blood. And that was awesome. Oh, I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Prescription pills and shit like that. And there was other fuck ups along the way with some prescription pills and shit like that. And, but my big thing was always drinking. So
what was the pills situation?
Just working up north on the oil rigs and shit. And, you know, a bunch of construction workers. We were fucking 100 miles from civilization, like in the middle of the fucking forest, building an overflow camp. I was a carpenter. We were building an overflow camp for the guys that worked at the oil rigs at Syncrude and Suncor and all these big oil places. That's when the oil boom was really fucking rocking. And they couldn't get enough guys to go to Fort McMurray and in northern Alberta to deal with these oil rigs. So everybody was getting a job. It was sort of like the first time that uneducated people, and I mean uneducated in the sense that you didn't have to go to university, you didn't have to go to college, and there was an opportunity to make a fucking boatload of money.
Right.
So that was the first time that people that weren't experts in anything in particular could get a job, be making fucking $10,000-$15,000 a month. So we're all up there building this overflow camp because the oil rigs have got so many employees now that they need places to house guys. So we're in the middle of fucking nowhere, building an overflow camp for these guys to live. And we're 100 miles from civilization in the middle of the forest. Like we're having to shut down work in the middle of the day because there's bears and shit roaming onto the site. Like it's like fucking intense. And there's nothing to fucking do up there. There's no TV. There's no fucking radio. There's no fucking recreational activities. Right. There's fuck all. Like unless like you're bringing a keyboard and a computer from your house, which I ended up doing and made some music up there. If you're not bringing your own shit to camp to keep yourself, stimulated, there's fucking nothing to do. So a lot of us would drink, man. And it was beautiful out there. You're in the middle of nowhere. You can fucking light shit on fire and blow shit up and fucking, there's a river. You can go fishing. Like that's all there is to do. So we're out there just getting fucking plastered all the time. And then one of the guys was like an ex-military dude, and he had like some fucking, I think he said he had brain aneurysms or some shit. Whether that was fucking real or not, who fucking knows. But he would go to the doctor and he'd get scripts for like oxys and somas and shit like that, and then he'd bring them back to the camp. And we were all so fucking dumb at that point in time that we didn't understand that we'd all get drunk and he'd be like, hey, you want like one of these oxys? You want one of these oxys? And we'd be like, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's just like a fucking painkiller. Like you get a buzz off it when you're drinking. So we'd be like, okay, like, sure, I'll take one of those things. But fucking, before you know it, it's like every time you're drinking, you're taking these pills with that guy. And then all of a sudden they're not fucking free anymore. Right. All of a sudden it's $20 for an oxy, and all the guys are fucking rushing to his room at 5 a.m. before we go to work, pounding on the door. Hey, you got any oxys? And like, then you got 30 guys on site. Everybody's fucked on prescriptions.
I wonder, like, if he looks back and does he get mad at that guy that did that? I mean, he literally got all those kids addicted to drugs and then started making money off of it because they were addicted to it. That makes me mad. Makes me a little angry. How's he going to do that? So wrong. Look at him. And I can see what he looks like. I have a grandson named Blake. And now that whenever I see men, I just see what they look like as little boys. And I just want to love them. And how can you do that? He knew exactly what he was doing. Ah. And then how do you guard your children away from something like that?
You got 30 guys on site. Everybody's fucked on prescriptions, building this fucking thing, using heavy machinery. It's fucking dangerous, dude.
Yeah, don't you see that the Bible says do not use heavy machinery? Totally. And but you didn't develop a habit for oxys or anything at that point.
You know what, man? Like, I think that like I think that you can engage in a lot of different things in life, and I think the power of the mind is like is really fucking important, because I think if I would have realized, hey, this shit's essentially heroin, and that's really fucking addictive. Yeah. And this is like a very dangerous substance that you're fucking around with. If I would have known those things,
he couldn't have known.
Maybe I would have fucking got addicted. But I didn't know that shit was like heroin. I didn't know that it was like addictive. I didn't know you could develop a dependency. And because that didn't exist in my brain, it just never fucking hooked me like that.
Really glad.
So like I would take some fucking oxys and get drunk and fucking party with the guys and have a great time. And if I didn't fucking take oxys for fucking 4 days, I didn't get dope sick. I didn't have withdrawals. I didn't fucking deal with any of that shit. I literally think it was because it was like, I heard this story one time about Christopher Columbus like sailing into the shores of North America, and all of the Native Americans were like standing on the shores, and they didn't see the boats coming because they'd never seen it before. They had no knowledge. They had nothing to contextualize. They had no reference point for what they were looking at. So they didn't fully realize what was happening and the danger that they were potentially going to be in. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what went on with those oxys, is that I was just taking it and having fun and partying, completely oblivious and ignorant to the fact that what I was taking and the potential ramifications it would have on my life. So, you know, there was like, we did it pretty consistently for a couple months, but then the fucking job ended, and so did taking oxys. You know what I mean?
So you never became addicted to Oxycontin, which is good. Which is good.
But the drinking stuck.
Right. So, like, how did the alcoholism develop? And I think, I mean, like, there are so many aspects of your story.
I don't even know what he said.
Alcoholism, which is good.
But the drinking stuck.
Right. So, like, how did the alcoholism develop? And I think, I mean, like, there are so many aspects of your story that it's just ridiculously inspiring. And the story is nuts to me. But I never heard the end of the alcoholism, or even just the alcoholism in general, and how you kind of coped as a using alcoholic and wrote hip hop and performed. Like, what was that stage like?
I was just super fucking high functioning. And I never really, once again, I think that my ignorance probably saved me a little bit. Because I never, it was a slow burn. I think that sometimes people get addicted to something and it happens all at once and really suddenly and intensely, and they're fucking in it. And for me, it was just like, I was drinking and I really liked it. And I would associate, you know, all the best times that I was having with getting drunk and drinking with my friends. And I never looked at it as, oh, I need to drink, I need to get drunk. I always looked at it as, I want to have a good fucking time. And I knew that alcohol always like accelerated that and set that off. So it was a slow thing, man. You know, at first it was like drinking, you know, whatever, a couple beers, a shot of whiskey, whatever. And then it was, you know, drinking 12 beers and fucking 6 shots of whiskey. And then it was drinking 12 beers at home before we went to the bar, and then drank another 12 beers and more whiskey. And this whole shit is like very slowly over time built up and built up and built up and built up and built up to the point where like I'm getting home from the bar or whatever at fucking 3-4 in the morning, drinking more when I get to the house, putting my headphones on, setting up my microphone. Like, I got a computer here that, like, I went back and listened, like, it's the computer's, you know, 6-7 years old or whatever. I went back and listened to, like, a lot of those things I was recording, and, like, I couldn't understand a fucking word I was saying. I was so fucked up. And I have all of those sessions still on my computer where it's just like, I got home, I was fucking wasted, and I'd put on my fucking headphones and record a bunch of music that was fucking... You could not decipher the words. I was so fucking drunk.
Wow.
And you know, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd always have a couple beers next to my bed. So when I woke up, I'd just grab a beer, crush that, fucking go out, like play some fucking video games, hang out with my buddies, invite some friends over, drink during the day. There was a bar fucking close to the house where you could get anything on the menu for $5. We'd go there to eat lunch. That'd be my first meal of the day, and then we'd just sit there all day and fucking drink and drink and drink, get another $5 meal, and then head out on the fucking to the city and go to all the other bars and the clubs and you know, just a really slow fucking thing that I didn't even really realize that it was happening until it was fucking way too late.
And what was, I mean, that's the classic alcoholic progression, you know?
Wow. So if you're in that stage and you're not really realizing that it's happening, or if you haven't gotten to that point but you do drink, That is a really good thing to be aware of, that can happen so easily and unnoticed. So dangerous. And the fact that he had to have beer right by his bed in the morning, like the first thing he did as soon as he woke up was drink a beer. That's prison. You are literally in prison. Gosh, I'm so glad that he stopped. And for all of you all that have given me like your so many months sober, so many years sober, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so happy for you that you are not in prison anymore. And it may not feel great all the time, but you are so much better off. And I am very happy for you. Just keep up the good work. One moment at a time, one day at a time, and you can do it. All right, well, that was some really cool stories, great history. Gonna make that part 2. You know, me and my back. We don't always agree on everything, but it wins. So anyway, that's the video. Thank you so much for joining me for part 2, and part 3 will be coming up soon. All right, have a good night.